The day after my divorce was finalized, my ex-husband arrived at my house with his entire family and a moving truck. Not a conversation, not a coffee. A moving truck. They came in 3 cars, lined up along the curb like they were early for a celebration. The morning light in Bellevue was clean and pale, the kind that makes everything look calmer than it feels. The street was quiet. The neighbors' sprinklers clicked on somewhere down the block, steady and indifferent, like the world didn't care what people tried to take from you. I watched from the kitchen window with my coffee untouched. My hands didn't shake. Not yet. I'd learned something in the months leading to the divorce. Shock isn't what breaks you. Confusion is. And I wasn't confused anymore. Caleb stepped out of the first car like he owned the sidewalk. He wore the same navy jacket he wore to mediation, like he thought it made him look responsible. He had that practiced smile that used to disarm people at parties. That smile that said, "I'm reasonable, she's the problem." His mother, Linda, got out next. Sunglasses, camel coat, pearls. Chin lifted like she was inspecting a property she'd already purchased. His sister, Mallory, held her phone up immediately, the camera lens aimed straight at my front door, as if she needed footage for proof, or for entertainment. His uncle Greg laughed too loudly and slapped Caleb on the back like this was a tailgate. 2 cousins lingered behind them, carrying empty boxes like props. Caleb walked up the driveway with a manila envelope under his arm, smiling like the ending had already been written. The doorbell rang, twice. Impatient. I took a breath, slow, measured. Then I opened the door. "Morning," Caleb said brightly. "We're here to pick up the house." Linda didn't wait for him to finish. "Let's not make this difficult, Hannah," Mallory murmured into her phone without lowering it. "She's still inside. Yeah, we're about to do the handoff." I stepped onto the porch and closed the door behind me, the click of the lock soft but absolute. "You're not coming in," I said. Caleb blinked, then laughed like I'd made a joke. "Hannah, come on. The divorce was yesterday. The settlement's clear." Linda stepped closer, her smile thin and sharp. "You had your chance to be graceful. Now we're moving forward." I looked at the moving truck parked down the street, the driver leaning against the side panel like he wanted nothing to do with the drama he'd accidentally rented himself into. Then I looked back at the envelope under Caleb's arm. "What's in there?" I asked. "The paperwork," Caleb said. "The order, the deed, everything. We agreed. You keep your retirement, I keep the property." There it was. The story they'd rehearsed. I nodded slowly. "Who told you that?" Caleb's smile tightened. "Our lawyer, the judge. You were sitting right there." Mallory tilted the phone slightly to catch my face better. "Say hi." I held Caleb's gaze. "Call your attorney." Caleb scoffed. "Why?" "Call your attorney," I repeated. "Put him on speaker." Linda's head snapped toward me. "Don't play games," Greg laughed. "Look at her, acting like she's a lawyer now." I didn't move. I didn't raise my voice. I just waited. Caleb hesitated for a fraction of a second. Then, because he couldn't stand being challenged in front of an audience, he pulled out his phone. "Fine," he said, like I was exhausting. He tapped the screen and put it on speaker. The phone rang twice. "Marshall and Boyd," a voice answered. "This is Evan." Caleb straightened, confidence returning. "Evan, we're at the house. Hannah's refusing to vacate." A pause, not dramatic, administrative. "Caleb," Evan said slowly, "why are you at the property?" Caleb frowned. "Because it's mine." "Did you receive the revised settlement memo I sent last week?" Evan asked. Linda leaned toward the phone, voice hard. Tell him we're here to take possession. Another pause. No, Evan said. You're not. Caleb's face tightened. What do you mean? The property transfer was never completed, Evan replied. And given the ownership structure, you're not authorized to attempt entry. Linda snapped. Ownership structure? What structure? Evan's tone cooled. Ma'am, this is a privileged call. Caleb swallowed. Evan, explain. Caleb, Evan said carefully, you need to leave the premises immediately. This matter is more complex than you understand. Silence spread across the driveway. Even Greg stopped laughing. Mallory's phone dipped. Just slightly. Like her hand suddenly weighed more. Linda's jaw clenched so tightly I could see the muscle jump near her cheek. Caleb stared at the phone like it had betrayed him. Evan added, quieter now. Call me privately. The line went dead. Caleb lowered the phone slowly and looked at me with a new kind of expression. Not anger yet, but panic trying to hide behind pride. What did you do? He demanded. I smiled, not because it was funny, but because it was predictable. Nothing, I said. I just read what I signed. Linda stepped forward like she wanted to push right through me and into my home by sheer will. This is fraud. No, I said calmly. This is preparation. Caleb's voice dropped. The house was bought during the marriage. Yes, I said, and then refinanced. His eyes flickered. He remembered the refinance. Of course he did. He'd been the one who insisted on it. 2 years ago, he'd said we were locking in a better rate, that it was smart, that it was for our future. I'd been working late, exhausted, trusting. He'd handled the calls, pointed to signature lines, kept the conversation moving so I wouldn't slow it down with questions. But I had questions, not the loud kind, the quiet kind that keep you awake at night. Because the refinance wasn't happening in a vacuum. It was happening after I started noticing withdrawals that didn't match our budget. After I heard him whispering on the phone in the kitchen, long after midnight. After the words, I can fix it, started showing up like a bruise in our life. So I did what I always do when something feels off. I documented. I called an attorney, not a divorce attorney, an estate planning attorney, someone who understood how to protect assets from impulsive partners and sudden emergencies. We created a living trust, a clean structure, fully disclosed, not hidden, not shady, not dramatic. Caleb signed, twice, because Caleb never read what didn't interest him. Back on my porch, I looked at him steadily. You should leave. Greg scoffed again, weaker this time. Or what? You'll call the cops? I didn't answer him. I took out my phone and dialed 911. Caleb's smile vanished. Linda froze. Mallory's eyes widened and her camera shook. 911, what's your emergency? The operator asked. I kept my voice calm. I have multiple individuals trespassing on my property. They refuse to leave. I am the homeowner. I'm requesting an officer. Caleb threw his hands up. We're leaving. We're leaving. Linda hissed. Caleb? He grabbed her arm and pulled her toward the car. Not to protect me. To protect themselves. Because he knew the moment the police arrived, the story would stop being family dispute and start being trespass. They retreated in a messy cluster of embarrassment and anger, doors slamming, engines starting too fast. As Caleb climbed into his car, he leaned out the window and aimed his voice at me like a knife. This isn't over, he said. I nodded once. I know. Then I closed my front door and locked it. And the quiet that followed felt like the first honest thing I'd had in a long time. I thought that was the end. It wasn't. It was the opening move. By Monday morning, the messages started, not from Caleb, from people who had never cared about me until they thought I'd done something wrong. A cousin I'd met once at a barbecue. Hey, Caleb says you're refusing a court order? A family friend. Don't be greedy, Hannah. This isn't a good look. A number I didn't recognize. You can't steal a man's house and expect no consequences. Greedy. That word always shows up when a woman refuses to hand over what she built. Then came the email. Subject line: Notice of demand, possession. A demand letter from a new law firm, aggressive and polished, threatening expedited action, attorney's fees, and immediate possession. It was written to intimidate, not to be correct. I forwarded it to my attorney, Marissa Chen, without replying. Marissa responded with a single sentence. Good. Now we end this. Marissa was the kind of attorney who didn't perform confidence. She wore it quietly. Early 40s, dark hair pulled back, calm voice, the type who reads threats like they're just sloppy paperwork. We met in her office downtown. Glass walls, neutral art, the kind of place where people try to look unbothered even when they're about to lose everything. She slid the demand letter back toward me. This is posturing, she said, but it tells me something. What? I asked. Marissa's eyes stayed steady. He's desperate. I swallowed. Over the house? Marissa's mouth tightened slightly. Not just the house. Then she opened a file and placed a refinance statement in front of me. Numbers highlighted, a line that made my stomach drop in a slow, sick way. Cash out proceeds, $172,400. I stared at it, because Caleb had told me we were refinancing for a better rate. He'd said, we're not taking money out. He'd said, it's just paperwork. Marissa tapped the page. He took equity. My throat tightened. Where did it go? Marissa exhaled slowly. That's what he's trying to keep buried. And if he can't keep it buried, he wants you to share the dirt. I felt a cold wave move through my chest. Because I work in compliance, I know what shared dirt looks like. It looks like your name on a document you didn't fully understand. It looks like a bank asking questions you can't answer. It looks like your employer's risk department forwarding your file to legal. Marissa leaned forward slightly. Caleb is going to try to flip this, she said. He'll claim you hid the trust. He'll claim you committed fraud. He'll claim you're the reason the transfer failed. But he signed, I said. He signed everything. Yes, Marissa said. But he doesn't need the truth. He needs a story loud enough to scare you into settling. I sat back, staring at the numbers. Marissa's voice softened just a fraction. Hannah, did you ever see where this money went? I shook my head. No. Then we find it, she said, and we make sure the court understands something very clearly. What? Marissa's gaze didn't waver. This isn't a property dispute. It's a financial misconduct problem, and Caleb is trying to use the house to protect himself. That week, Caleb's family turned the volume up. Mallory posted a vague video on social media. No names, no details, just tears, dramatic lighting, and the kind of caption designed to let viewers fill in the worst assumptions. Some women will do anything to take what isn't theirs. Linda began calling people in my neighborhood. I found out because one of my neighbors, an older man named Stan, who had lived on our street for 20 years, knocked on my door one evening and looked uncomfortable. Hey, Hannah, he said, voice low. Your ex's mom came by. Said you're squatting. Said the sheriff's coming. I didn't flinch. I just nodded. because this is what they do. They don't just try to take your home, they try to take your reputation, so you won't have anywhere to stand. Thanks for telling me, I said. Stan hesitated. Is it true? I looked him in the eye. No. He held my gaze for a second, then nodded once like he'd made a decision. All right, he said. If anyone shows up, I'll call you. After he left, I sat in my living room and let the quiet press against my ears. I'd wanted peace. But peace doesn't arrive just because you ask for it. Peace arrives when you stop making yourself small for people who benefit from your silence. On Thursday, I got called into a meeting at work, not by my manager, by HR and internal compliance, which, in my world, is the difference between a routine conversation and a building alarm. 2 people sat across from me in a small conference room with a glass wall. Their faces were neutral, their voices careful. Hannah, one of them said, we need to ask you some questions about a matter that's come to our attention. My stomach tightened, but my face stayed calm. What matter? I asked. The HR director slid a folder across the table, a printed screenshot of Mallory's post, a forwarded email from an anonymous account claiming I was involved in financial fraud, and a note from a bank requesting verification of employment related to a refinance. There it was. Caleb wasn't just trying to take my house. He was trying to pull my job into the fight. We're not accusing you of anything, the compliance officer said quickly, but we have to document this and ensure there's no risk exposure. I nodded slowly. Understood. The HR director watched me. Is there anything you want to disclose? I chose my words carefully. I'm involved in a divorce-related legal dispute, I said. My attorney is handling it. I can provide documentation. The compliance officer leaned forward. Do you know why a lender would be contacting us? I didn't lie. I didn't overshare. I stayed in the lane that keeps you safe. I believe my ex-husband refinanced the marital home, I said. I am cooperating with counsel to clarify the facts. They exchanged a glance. Then the compliance officer said quietly, please send us your attorney's contact information. We will route all inquiries through legal. I nodded. I will. I walked out of that room with my posture steady, but the moment I reached my car in the parking lot, my hands finally started to shake. Not because I was scared of Caleb, because I understood the size of the problem. If Caleb had pulled equity out of the home and rooted it somewhere questionable, and my name was on the refinance, he wasn't just risking his own future, he was gambling with mine. And that thought genuinely made me sick. That night, Marisa called me. I have something, she said. Her voice was calm, but I heard the edge under it. What? I asked. A transfer record, she said, from the refinance proceeds. My throat tightened. Where did it go? Marisa paused just long enough for the answer to land harder. An entity called Northbridge Solutions, she said. I frowned. That sounds normal. It's not, Marisa replied. It's a shell. The account is linked to a payment processor used by unlicensed online betting networks. The room went cold. I sat down at my kitchen table, staring at the wood grain like it might steady me. Gambling, I whispered. Yes, Marisa said. And the lender flagged the transaction. That's why they're asking questions. I closed my eyes. A memory surfaced. Caleb late at night, whispering in the kitchen. Just one more week. I can fix it. Fix it. That word was never about building something. It was about chasing something. Marisa's voice softened. Hannah, listen to me. You're not going to handle this alone. You're going to handle this correctly. What do I need to do? I asked. Keep your communication clean, she said. No texts you wouldn't want read in court. No phone calls without documentation. And if he shows up again, you call the police. I swallowed. He'll show up again. Marissa didn't deny it. Yes. 2 days later, Caleb filed an emergency motion. Emergency. Like my refusal to hand over my home was a natural disaster. The filing accused me of fraud, claimed I surreptitiously transferred marital property into a trust, claimed I was interfering with his rightful access, requested attorney's fees and immediate possession. It was a performance on paper, but performances still create stress because the system has to respond. The hearing was set for the following week in King County Superior Court. Caleb arrived that morning, looking polished and confident again. Suit, tight smile, the manila envelope replaced by a leather briefcase. Linda sat behind him like a queen watching her soldier. Mallory wasn't there. My guess was she'd been advised that filming inside a courthouse would not end well. Caleb's attorney, a woman with a sharp jawline and a voice that could slice glass, stood and painted me as calculating. She manipulated documents while Mr. Pierce was unaware. She concealed material facts. She is refusing to comply with the settlement. She spoke like my life was a story she could control. Then she finished and sat down. And Caleb turned his head slightly, glancing at me with that old smile, the one that said, "You'll fold." The judge looked at Marissa. "Ms. Chen," he said. Marissa stood and didn't raise her voice. She didn't perform outrage. She simply opened a binder and placed the truth on the table, page by page, like building a wall. "Your Honor," she said evenly, "the trust was disclosed, executed by both parties, notarized, recorded. Mr. Pierce is asking this court to erase his own signatures because he now regrets them." Caleb's smile tightened. The judge leaned forward. "Do you have the executed documents?" Marissa handed them to the clerk. Caleb's attorney shifted. "Your Honor, the issue is..." Marissa lifted a hand slightly, polite, and kept speaking. "In addition," she said, "this motion is not filed in good faith." The judge's eyes narrowed. "On what basis?" Marissa turned her head and looked directly at Caleb. "Mr. Pierce," she said calmly, "did you take a cash out of $172,000 in equity from the marital home during the refinance?" Caleb froze. His attorney snapped, "Objection. Relevance." The judge didn't look away. "Overruled? Answer the question." Caleb swallowed. "Yes," he said tightly. "I refinanced." Marissa nodded once. "And where did that money go, Mr. Pierce?" Caleb's eyes flicked toward his attorney. She leaned in, whispering urgently. But the judge was watching. The room was watching. Linda's face was tight, controlled, like she already knew the answer but hated that it was about to be spoken. Caleb cleared his throat. "Business expenses." The judge's voice sharpened. "Which business?" Caleb's mouth opened, then closed. Marissa didn't move. "Is that business registered in Washington State?" she asked softly. Caleb's face flushed. "It's a private venture." The judge's gaze hardened. "Private doesn't mean invisible, Mr. Pierce." Marissa slid a document forward. "Your Honor," she said evenly. The lender flagged the transfer. The funds were routed to an account linked to an unlicensed payment processor. We have correspondence from the bank's risk department indicating suspicious activity. Caleb's attorney stood quickly. "Your Honor, we request a recess to review any new evidence." "No," the judge said. "We're not recessing." Caleb's eyes widened. Linda's hand tightened around her purse strap. Marissa's voice stayed calm, almost gentle. Your Honor, we believe Mr. Pierce is using this emergency motion to pressure my client into surrendering the property, because he is under financial scrutiny tied to the equity extraction. Caleb snapped, voice cracking. That's not true. The judge looked at him slowly, then down at the documents, then back up again. Motion denied, he said. The words landed like a door slamming shut. Caleb blinked as if he hadn't heard correctly. The judge continued, firm. Both parties will produce complete refinancing disclosures and bank statements associated with the proceeds. If there is evidence of misrepresentation, this court will refer the matter accordingly. Caleb's face went pale. Linda made a small sound, sharp, angry, terrified, all at once. Caleb's attorney leaned in close, whispering into his ear with urgency that looked like damage control. And I sat there, breathing slowly, even because I understood something that Caleb still didn't. He thought he was in a divorce fight, but the moment a judge says referral, the game changes. Outside the courthouse, I walked with Marissa into the cold air. The sky was a flat winter gray, heavy and quiet. Am I in trouble? I asked softly. Marissa looked at me. Not if we keep doing what we're doing, she said. Documentation, cooperation, clean communication. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I stared at it for a second, then answered. A man's voice, controlled, professional. Ms. Pierce? He asked. Yes. My name is Daniel Reyes, he said. I'm with the lender's risk and compliance department. My stomach tightened. He continued. We've been trying to reach Mr. Pierce regarding the refinance proceeds. He's not responding. You were listed as a co-borrower at the time. We need to clarify your knowledge of the transfer. I steadied my breath. You can speak to my attorney, I said. Thank you, Reyes replied, relief audible. Please have her contact us. I ended the call, and as I slipped my phone into my coat pocket, I felt the full shape of it. Caleb wasn't trying to move into my house. He was trying to move his mess into it, and into me, because my life was cleaner than his. That night, I barely slept. I kept hearing the judge's voice. Referral. I kept hearing Linda's breath, tight, and I kept remembering the moving truck, parked on my street, like a threat disguised as logistics. The next morning, Caleb showed up again, not with his family, alone, at dusk. I was taking out the trash when I saw him standing at the edge of my driveway under the streetlight, hands in his pockets, posture careful, like he wanted to look harmless. Hannah, he said softly, can we talk? I didn't move closer. I didn't step back. I kept distance. That's how you keep control when someone is trying to pull you into their storm. What do you want? I asked. He exhaled like he was tired. I didn't want it to go like this. I stared at him. He stepped 1 foot forward, slow. The bank's calling, he said. They're asking questions. They're calling your job. My spine stiffened. So you decided to come threaten me in person? His face tightened. I'm not threatening you. He swallowed, then tried a different tone, softer, persuasive. The voice he used when he wanted me to stop asking questions. I can fix it, he said. I can make it go away, but I need time. I didn't answer. He leaned forward slightly. If you sign a simple agreement, he said, just something that says you won't pursue claims and you'll release the house, I'll take full responsibility with the lender. I'll make sure you're protected. Protected from the consequences of what he'd done. I laughed once, a small sound, not amused. You want me to give you the house, I said. so you can hide behind it. Caleb's eyes sharpened, the softness drained. You don't understand, he hissed. I was close. Close to what? Close to fixing a problem he created by using my stability like currency. I looked at him steadily. You used the equity from our home, I said quietly. Where did it go? Caleb's jaw clenched. That's none of your... It is, I cut in softly, because my name is on the refinance. His eyes flickered. The mask cracked. For a second, he looked scared. Then anger rushed in, because anger is easier than shame. You went digging, he said. Yes, I replied, and I found it. He took another step. If you don't sign, he said low, you'll get pulled into this. You think the court saved you? The bank won't. There it was. The real purpose of his visit. Not reconciliation. Leverage. I felt something inside me settle, a quiet click, because fear needs uncertainty. And now I was certain. Caleb would burn my life down to keep his illusion standing. I met his eyes and kept my voice calm. If I go down, I said softly, I'm taking you with me. He froze. I continued steady. I have every document, every signature, every email, every transfer, every lie. Caleb's face went pale. He searched my eyes for the old Hannah, the one who would soften, the one who would rescue him, the one who would absorb consequences just to keep peace. He didn't find her. He found someone else, someone who finally understood that saving him meant drowning myself. Caleb's voice went tight. You're really doing this? I nodded once. Yes. His nostrils flared. Then he backed away slowly, like he was recalculating. Before he turned, he said one last thing, quiet and sharp. Fine, he whispered. Then I'll let my mom handle you. And he walked away into the dusk like a threat wearing a familiar face. The next morning, my phone rang at 7:06 a.m. Unknown number. I answered. Linda's voice hit my ear like a slap. You selfish little girl, she hissed. Do you know what you've done? I kept my voice calm. Good morning, Linda. Don't you good morning me, she snapped. Caleb is in trouble because of you. No, I said softly. Caleb is in trouble because of Caleb. Linda's breath turned jagged. He refinanced for you, for your lifestyle, for the house you insisted on. I cut in gently. This call is being recorded. Silence. A tight, stunned pause. You're bluffing, she spat. I'm not, I said. Continue. She didn't hang up, because people like Linda don't know how to stop once they've started. You think a trust makes you untouchable, she said, voice syrupy now, dangerous. I have friends. I have people who can make your life very uncomfortable. I let the silence stretch for half a second, then replied softly. Thank you, I said. For what? She snapped. For putting that on record, I said. Then I hung up. My hands were steady, because threats are evidence, if you're smart enough to keep them. That afternoon, Marissa filed for a protective order. Not dramatic, not theatrical, a clean boundary. And then she sent the recording to the lender's investigator. Because lender risk departments don't just care about numbers, they care about patterns and intimidation tied to financial misconduct. Is a pattern. The pressure at work intensified. My employer's legal team requested a formal statement. Not because they didn't trust me, because their job is to protect the organization. I sat in another glass-walled room, this time with company counsel on a video call. Ms. Pierce, the attorney said, we received a request for verification of your employment and income related to a refinance. I understand, I said. Are you aware of any misrepresentation in documents you signed? He asked. I took a slow breath. This is where people panic and ruin themselves. This is where people over-explain. But compliance teaches you something important. Truth doesn't need decoration. I signed documents under the belief the refinance was for rate adjustment, I said calmly. I did not authorize the use of proceeds for any unreported ventures. My attorney is cooperating with the lender. The attorney watched me for a moment. Do you have representation? Yes, I said. Marissa Chen. Thank you, he replied. We will route everything through counsel. When I left, I sat in my car for a full minute without starting the engine. I stared at my hands on the steering wheel. This house, this fight, had spilled into my work, my reputation, my nervous system. And I realized something brutal. Caleb's family didn't just want the house. They wanted me to feel like keeping it wasn't worth the cost. They wanted me to choose peace by surrendering. But the thing about surrender, it doesn't buy peace. It buys permission for them to do it again. Weeks passed. The lender's investigation deepened. The court ordered disclosures. Caleb stalled, delayed, lost documents, claimed confusion. Then one evening, I opened my mailbox and found an official envelope that made my stomach drop. U.S. Department of Justice. Not a threat. Not a demand. A notice. My knees went weak for a second. I walked into my house slowly, set the envelope on the kitchen counter like it was fragile, and called Marissa with shaking fingers. She answered on the second ring. Marissa, I whispered. I got a letter. Read me the header, she said. I did. She went silent for a moment. Then her voice returned, calm. Okay, she said. Listen to me. This is not you being charged. This is an inquiry. You're a witness. My throat tightened. How do you know? Because of the wording, she said, and because we've kept everything clean. I stared at the envelope. What happens now? Marissa's voice stayed steady. Now Caleb realizes he can't scare you into handing him the house, so he'll try to do something else. What? I asked. Marissa exhaled slowly. He'll try to make you look like the mastermind. And that's exactly what happened. 2 days later, Mallory posted again, more direct this time. Still no names, but it didn't matter. She set him up. She planned it. She's the reason he's under investigation. It was a lie designed to plant doubt in strangers' minds. Because if enough strangers believe something, people in your real life start wondering too. That's how campaigns work. Not by proving truth, by exhausting people until they stop caring about it. Then came the next hit. A process server showed up at my door. I opened it and saw a man holding a folder with a neutral face. Miss Hannah Pierce? He asked. Yes. You've been served. I took the papers calmly and closed the door. My hands didn't shake this time, because when you've been through enough, fear turns into focus. Caleb had filed a civil complaint, not about the house, about defamation. He claimed my false allegations had harmed him financially. He claimed I had coordinated with the lender. He claimed I was weaponizing compliance. It was a ridiculous argument, but that wasn't the point. The point was to drag me into another fight, to drain my energy, to make me settle out of exhaustion. Marissa called me that night. They're trying to create noise, she said. I know, I replied. Good, she said, because we're going to do the opposite. What's the opposite? I asked. Marissa's voice softened, almost gentle. We're going to let them talk, and we're going to build a clean timeline that crushes their story. She came to my house the next morning, sat at my dining table with a laptop and a stack of paper, like this was just another Tuesday. We rebuilt the last 2 years, not emotionally, Factually. Dates, emails, bank records, notary logs, recorded trust filings. We printed everything. Then Marissa slid one document toward me that I hadn't seen before. "What is that?" I asked. Marissa's eyes stayed on mine. "That's the trust schedule," she said softly. "The part Caleb never read." I leaned in. In the trust document was a clause, simple, clean, devastating. If any party attempts to use coercion, intimidation, or fraudulent legal action to seize control of the trust-held property, their beneficial interest is automatically suspended pending court review. I looked up slowly. "You're telling me," I began. Marissa nodded once. "He triggered it," she said. "When he showed up with his family, when he filed the emergency motion, when his mother threatened you." A cold, steady feeling moved through me. Not joy, not revenge, but relief. Because this wasn't me getting lucky. This was me protecting myself before I knew how badly I would need it. Caleb thought he was pressuring me. He was stepping into a trap built by his own arrogance. Marissa's voice stayed calm. "We're going to request the court confirm the trigger," she said. "And once it's confirmed," she paused, "Caleb loses whatever leverage he thought he still had." The next hearing was scheduled for early spring. By then, the lender's investigation had matured into something heavier. Reyes from Risk and Compliance requested an interview. Marissa accompanied me. We sat in a plain conference room inside a downtown building with no art on the walls and a security guard at the front desk who didn't smile. Reyes was mid-40s, neat, serious. He spoke like a man who had seen the same story 100 times. "Ms. Pierce," he said, "we're not here to intimidate you. We're here to clarify facts." "I understand," I said. He slid a file toward Marissa. "Mr. Pierce routed the refinance proceeds through multiple accounts," he said. "We traced transfers to a payment processor, linked to unlicensed wagering." Marissa asked, "Are you alleging criminal activity?" Reyes didn't flinch. "We are documenting potential violations and coordinating with authorities," he said. "What we need from Ms. Pierce is clarity about her knowledge and consent." I kept my voice steady. "I did not authorize those transfers," I said. "I was told the refinance was for rate adjustment." Reyes nodded. "Do you have proof of his representations?" Marissa slid forward a printed text message thread. Caleb's words, casual and confident. "Just refinancing for a better rate. Don't worry about the details. I handled it." Reyes studied them, then looked at me. "Did Mr. Pierce ever threaten you?" he asked. I paused. Marissa's eyes flicked to mine. Silent question. "Do you want this in the record?" I answered honestly. "Yes," I said. "He said if I didn't sign property release documents, he'd make sure I got pulled into the investigation." Reyes's expression tightened. Not shocked, just confirmed. "Do you have evidence?" he asked. Marissa slid over the recording transcript of Linda's call. Reyes read it slowly. Then he looked up and nodded once. "Thank you," he said. "This is helpful." Helpful. A simple word that meant something bigger. It meant Caleb's family wasn't just loud. They were reckless. And reckless people leave fingerprints. The week before the court hearing, Caleb tried one last time. He didn't come to my house. He didn't call. He sent a package, a thick envelope delivered overnight. Inside was a settlement proposal, a generous offer. He'd allow me to keep the house if I agreed to refinance it solely in my name within 60 days, and if I signed a release stating I would not cooperate with any investigation against him. That's when I realized the house had never been his priority. The priority was silence. He wanted the house because it was leverage, but what he needed was a shield, a release, a clean statement that he could wave around like innocence. I handed the papers to Marissa without speaking. She glanced through them once and smiled slightly, a small cold curve. "This is the dumbest thing he could have sent," she said. "Why?" I asked. Marissa tapped one line, because the wording admitted he knew there was an investigation, and he was trying to obstruct it. Marissa didn't say the word obstruction out loud. She didn't have to. The next morning, she forwarded the settlement proposal to Reyes. Clean, professional, no drama, just documentation. Then came the hearing, King County Superior Court again. Same tired benches, same fluorescent light, same quiet tension. Caleb sat across from me in a suit that looked expensive, like he believed appearance could still save him. His attorney was there. Linda wasn't this time. Marissa had requested her presence be restricted due to the protective order. Mallory wasn't there either. No phones, no audience, no performance, just paper. The judge reviewed the trust clause carefully. Then he looked up at Caleb. "Mr. Pierce," he said, "you signed this trust schedule." Caleb's jaw tightened. "Yes." "And you understand," the judge continued, "that certain actions trigger suspension of interest." Caleb's attorney stood. "Your Honor, we dispute the applicability." The judge lifted a hand. "I'm not asking you. I'm asking him." Caleb swallowed. "Yes." The judge nodded slowly, then looked at Marissa. "Ms. Chen," he said, "what is the basis for your trigger claim?" Marissa stood and spoke in the same calm tone she always used. "Your Honor," she said, "Mr. Pierce attempted to seize possession with multiple parties present, despite no completed transfer. He filed an emergency motion containing false assertions of fraud. His mother, acting in coordination, issued threats that were recorded. The trust schedule clause is clear." The judge turned back to Caleb. "Mr. Pierce," he said, "do you deny that you arrived with a moving truck and family members?" Caleb's face tightened. "No." "Do you deny filing an emergency motion?" the judge asked. Caleb's voice went thin. "No." "Do you deny that your mother contacted Ms. Pierce and threatened her?" the judge asked. Caleb's eyes flicked toward his attorney. He couldn't deny it without lying. And lying in this room would be very expensive. "I don't know what my mother said," he muttered. The judge's expression hardened. "You're responsible for the actions of your agents when acting in coordination," he said. Then he looked down at the papers again and spoke the sentence that changed everything. "Trigger confirmed," he said. Caleb blinked. His attorney stiffened. The judge continued. "Mr. Pierce's beneficial interest in the trust-held property is suspended pending further proceedings. Ms. Pierce retains exclusive possession." Exclusive possession. Those words didn't just mean I could stay in my home. They meant Caleb couldn't weaponize it anymore. The judge added, "Additionally, given the financial disclosures and lender correspondence, this court will cooperate with any appropriate referrals." Caleb's face went pale. For the first time, he looked like a man realizing his story had collapsed. Outside the courthouse, the air felt different, lighter. Not because everything was over, but because the house was no longer a battleground. It was mine. Caleb's attorney tried to speak to Marissa in the hallway. Quiet, urgent. Marissa listened briefly, then shook her head. "No," she said softly. "You don't get to negotiate your way out of your own paper trail." Caleb stood near the exit, staring at his phone like he was waiting for a miracle. And in that moment, I felt something that surprised me. Not victory, pity. Because I remembered the man I married. I remembered laughing in a rented apartment, dreaming of a life we'd build. I remembered believing love was enough to keep people honest. But love doesn't cure selfishness, and it doesn't cure addiction. It just gives those things a place to hide. Months passed again. The lender's inquiries continued. Then one day, Reyes called Marissa, and Marissa called me immediately after. "It's moving forward," she said. "What is?" I asked, even though I already knew. "The investigation," she said. "Caleb has been contacted formally. His accounts are being reviewed. There are other names involved." Other names. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just Caleb making a few bad bets. This was a network, a system, a place where money disappears and people pretend it's business until it isn't. Caleb tried to text me once after that. One sentence. "Please, we can fix this. Fix." That word again. I didn't respond. Silence isn't weakness. When silence is backed by evidence, then came the quietest moment of all. A letter arrived. Not threatening, not dramatic. A simple notice confirming my status as a cooperating witness and indicating that my documentation had been received. I sat at my kitchen table and read it twice. My hands didn't shake, because my life was no longer balanced on Caleb's choices. It was balanced on my own. Not long after, Stan knocked on my door again. He looked down the street first, then back at me. "Hey," he said quietly. "Saw your ex's mom driving by. Slow." I nodded. "Thank you." Stan hesitated. "You okay?" I looked at him and let myself be honest, just for a second. "I'm tired," I said. Stan nodded like he understood. "You're still standing," he said. "That counts." After he left, I walked through my house slowly. The same walls, the same floor, the same windows. But it felt different, not because the furniture changed, because the fear changed. One evening, a message came in from an unknown number. It was Mallory, a single line. "He says you ruined his life." I stared at it for a long moment. Then I typed back, slow, careful, truthful. He ruined his life when he decided my stability was his to spend. Then I blocked the number. A week later, Caleb sent one last message from a new account. "You think you're better than me?" I stared at it, feeling the old reflex to explain, to soften, to make it less sharp. But I didn't. I typed one sentence. "I'm not better. I'm free." Then I blocked him again, and that was that. The moving truck never returned. The family never came back to my porch. Linda's threats stopped when she realized threats create records, and records create consequences. Caleb's confidence vanished the moment the system he tried to manipulate began looking at him with the cold eyes of math. And me, I learned something I wish I'd known sooner. People like Caleb don't take your home because they love it. They take it because it represents something they can't create. Stability, credibility, a clean name, a place where bills get paid and life keeps moving. Even when they're falling apart, they came to my house with cars and boxes and arrogance, convinced that volume equals ownership. They were wrong. Ownership is quiet. It's reading what you sign. It's building protection before you need it. It's not letting someone else's emergency become your downfall. And if there's a lesson in what happened to me, it's this. When someone tries to take your home, they're rarely just taking a building. They're testing whether you still believe that you deserve to stand your ground. So stand. Even if your voice stays low. Even if your hands only shake after the door closes. Even if people call you greedy. Because the moment you protect what keeps you alive, you don't just keep a house. You keep yourself.